Hello and welcome to the NerdNest podcast. It's been kind of a long time since we've seen you guys, or you've seen us, I guess that's how it works. But we're back nonetheless, and we've got a lot to talk about. And this week, my guests.
Daniel. Sorry, I thought you were going first. Josh. I thought he was going to go first.
Sorry, I should have pointed and made it more clear. So, today is the 27th?
Yes.
It is the 27th of March, which means that technically 2 days, but more like 2.5 days ago, Batman vs. Superman came out. Josh, how many times have you seen the movie?
I've seen it once.
I've seen it twice.
I've seen it 3 times.
And we're all planning to see it probably at least 1 to 3 more times.
Yes.
So, as we've said many times on this podcast, we are big DC fans.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not blind.
We've seen flaws.
So let's just talk about the bad parts first, the parts that we weren't super happy with.
First half of the movies pacing.
Yeah, the first time I watched it, the first 45 minutes were very strange and off-putting to me because it wasn't told the way that I'm used to comic book movies being told.
Right.
And I wasn't particularly happy about it, but as soon as the scene... this will contain spoilers, by the way, so if you don't want that, leave now. The scene with Superman on Capitol Hill, when Capitol Hill exploded, that for me was the turning point in the movie where I was like, okay, I'm in 100%, let's go. The second time I watched it, I found the first 45 minutes very, very interesting. Because I knew what I was expecting.
Right, yeah.
And that's basically what we told a lot of our friends, like when I'm going to go up to Athens next weekend for my friends that are at UGA and watch the movie with them. And the thing I'm going to tell them is, don't go into this expecting a Marvel Cinematic Universe TM comic book movie, because it is not that. It is not a wall-to-wall action movie. It is not like every other comic book movie you've ever seen.
It's not, there's no real comedy. I think there's like one.
There's like a couple of moments that kind of make you laugh.
Alfred has some quippy lines in there, which is, I really like.
But it's dry British humor. If you don't like that, you won't like that.
Yeah, and there's some sarcasm and some snaps, but...
There was one where someone was like laying on the ground and said something. I can't remember what it was though.
What?
Batman?
Maybe.
Batman, like, when Doomsday shirt up? Who's in the Batmobile?
Yes.
I think that was probably the most common one where people consistently laughed. It's like just a bit funny, especially in a super serious moment.
Yeah, because in general,
it's alright with comedy.
It's very, very serious. But see, that's the thing though. If you read a Batman comic, it's just all darkness. There's very little comedy in it, and if there is, it comes from a Robin
or Alfred.
Or Alfred, and that's where the comedy came from. It was from Robin, and then you can't really bash Superman being too different in this one because it is shot from the perspective of being a Batman movie, not from the being a Superman.
And I think that's obviously with the comics is done by design. That Batman is a very dark character because you can't. It's very difficult to tell a story with Batman true to his character, where both of his parents were murdered in front of his eyes, and then he became
Jason Todd's death, which they seem like they're going to touch on.
And then he becomes this dark vigilante, consumed by that death and his need to pursue justice at all cost. He's a very dark character, and any Batman adaptation you think of that is more camp is usually at the bottom of the list of good Batman adaptations.
Yep.
Like some of the best ones are. And I'll say it, Ben Affleck would be my top
He's
live
my
action
number one favorite Batman.
Oh, yeah. And then you've got Christian Bale with the Dark Knight franchise, a very dark franchise. You've got all of the animated shows that, even though they're geared towards children, are still very dark.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're totally right, in the comics and in any movie form, if the comedy comes from Batman, it's weird and it feels off, unless it's like situational.
Which is one of the reasons why Batman and Robin wasn't so good, because it was incredibly camp. And Batman made jokes.
Yeah, the bat card, ching, for some reason.
It was just wrong.
Yeah, and the tone feels really off, and that's why you have characters like the characters in the Bat family. You have Alfred and the Robins, and Batgirl is to lighten Batman. And that's also why when you put Batman in a movie with another character, I mean, by any metric of comparison, Batman is usually going to be the darkest character on screen, because next to Flash, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Superman, they're not really dark. Wonder Woman is brutal. Superman is inspiring. Aquaman is also brutal. Yeah, but I mean, sure, let's talk about the other characters.
This is one big complaint for me. This is probably my biggest issue with the movie, was the Superman and Lois scenes. A lot of the times, were way too long and way too just, I want to see something else. Like, those were always, like, some of them were fine. A lot of the other ones, I'm like, okay, this is
I would
this is
absolutely
ridiculous.
agree with you the first time I watched it, because I thought the same thing. I was like, every time, like, the last scene where he's just like, Lois. I'm just like, no, Clark, don't. I was like, all right, let's go back to the fight scene.
I have a huge problem with that scene, and it's something so small, and I don't know why they did it, and I talked to Josh about this. It's so stupid. So, Lois jumps in the water to get the kryptonite spear thing, right? And then she starts drowning, and Superman hears her and goes to save her, right? And pulls her out. She's safe. He dives in to get the spear, and he just passes out in the water. So Lois has to get up, and, like, run over there, and, like, pull her body. Like, why couldn't they just make him grab the spear and at least get himself out of the water?
Or
to avoid that whole
gets
part.
the spear, because she's still conscious.
Yeah, because I think
It was such a long.
I think we would all
part.
agree that there's definitely parts of the movie that could have been cut down or changed.
Oh yeah.
Like the opening sequence when Bruce Wayne is being lifted up by the bats, we had a lot of debate about this after the first time we saw it at IHOP. But it's obviously supposed to be metaphorical. He's not literally being lifted up by bats.
Yes.
But there's a better way to show that Batman became...
That was kind of a weird way to do it.
Yeah, it was just...
Because it seemed... Because I spent the first time, I'm like, please... Because it was the first time I saw it.
Yeah.
Y'all have already seen it when I saw it with y'all. And I was sitting there going, please, 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 dear Lord, don't let this be how it actually worked out. Played out. And then he went... And then that's how, like, that's my dream. I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, it's like in the dream, they lifted me out of darkness. And it's very clear that it's like, this is supposed to be a metaphor for Bruce Wayne overcoming his fears and not only accepting them, but using them to empower himself. But they could have done that with him standing up, unafraid of the bats, and looking up towards the lit sky.
Which would have been...
It was just, especially because it was the first, 2 minutes of a movie that, like, it means a lot to the universe. It's like, is he flying?
And there was,
just kind of a
and there was a lot
in.
of moments like that in this movie where you're like, they could have, like, I'm not angry with the way they did it, but they could have done that in a way that was less
It's like they tried
strange.
to take too much artistic privilege, and it made it.
Yeah.
And like I appreciate it. I appreciate trying,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, go ahead, and like try to make it look artistic and all that stuff, because it works most of the time in this movie. But there are a few times where I'm like, you probably could have just dialed that back a little bit.
Right. So.
Or made it more obvious of what you were trying to do.
Is there anything else in this movie that we want to talk about that is something that, like, things that we dislike?
So just what we have right now is the pacing in the beginning, like first hour.
Yeah, some of the artistic
is a
liberties.
bit off, but it still works
Right.
in a good way. But it could just be edited a bit better, which the second half, though, I thought was perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was just
second act is great.
Great. Lois and Clark's scenes, some of those.
That also goes with the pacing, just
Yeah,
cutting
just
some parts
they're
out.
just a bit annoying and a bit long.
Doomsday not having enough spikes.
Yeah, I would have liked Doomsday.
And also,
more Doomsday.
I wish that
Lex Luthor.
Lex
Obviously,
Luthor.
we can't not talk about that. If this character was not named Lex Luthor,
I would have liked him.
I wouldn't have had a problem with it. But he was. And they tried to cover it by saying, oh, it's Lex Luthor Jr. I'm like, yeah, but still, you could have done a movie where you had a business tycoon who's a strong businessman who would make sense for Bruce Wayne to work with, and then you would have had an interesting dynamic there. Not that it wasn't interesting, but it just always felt weird that Lex Luthor was this literally snot-nosed, sniveling child the whole time.
Yes.
And I didn't have a problem with his aesthetic or his long hair, or the fact that he was young. I just didn't like that his personality felt more psychotic, and as we talked about it felt jokery. The way that he enacted his plans. It's like, it should be more tactical. Like, he is his own crazy, but it's very, like, it's not,
it kind of rubs you the wrong way.
psychopath. It's not psychopath crazy, it's like OCD, over-planning crazy.
And I think some of the big reasons it took us all off guard is because we're pretty used to watching a comic movie and being aware that these movies take their liberties with characters. Like the whole Nolan universe, it always wanted to be more grounded and more realistic, which is fine, and if you watch it that way, you really like it. In this movie, it's like, this looks like the most comic accurate Batman we've ever seen. We've already seen this Superman, and he's as close to anything we've ever gotten, and he looks great.
Tearing him out of the pages of the New 52.
And Wonder Woman looked amazing, and you know she's going to be really close to the comics, and then Lex Luthor's there, just completely different from anything else.
Something left field. And
yeah, it's just a bit awkward.
But every other character and every other aspect of the movie is very, very close to the comics.
That being said about Lex,
which is why something that I have a problem when people get upset about, oh, Superman is in the way like that in the comics. Like, if you read the New 52 comics,
Yeah, absolutely.
there's literally scenes where Superman doesn't talk,
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't do anything, he just floats in the background,
Because
motionless.
He's stoic. He becomes more stoic.
He isn't camp anymore. He isn't the I fight for truth, justice, and the American way. He's like
Right.
he's
a little bit more serious.
He's usually back.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
usually
he knows
reserved.
it.
He
He knows what
usually
he can do.
doesn't.
Yeah.
Well, going back to Lex Luthor, which it is kind of weird seeing him like that in the first way, but this also works with Batman, and I think what they did is kind of genius, and I think it's kind of a brilliant thing they did, and it's I really appreciate it after you finish off the movie, is the final scene, second to final scene or whatever, with Batman and Lex in the prison. You see a lot of transformation in both those characters. And I think it definitely shows that Lex Luthor is going to start taking a route a bit more classic Lex that we know, with the kind of intimidating, yet you almost want to root for him because he's so controlled. And in this movie, Lex is pretty controlled too. Like, the guy is so smart, he can go to like a crashed Kryptonian scout ship and take command of it.
Right.
And like, it literally tricks like an AI that he has no comprehension
And
of.
it
He can do that because he's just so smart.
He's learned, it shows in the ship that he's learning so much about all these alien planets, which is why he has the knowledge foreboding that Superman is the bell that has been rung. The god bleeds, and so the other aliens in the universe know we can go down. And there's a lot of what exactly what you said. There's transformation in that last scene where Batman doesn't brand him; he punches the wall instead. He doesn't give him the death sentence. He's not judge, jury, and executioner anymore. He just follows justice more clearly.
And yeah, because especially when you see the scenes with Lex alone, I think it rings classic Lex a lot when you see Lex on the helipad with Superman right before they fight.
Yeah.
That kind of got like this, I am controlling you,
Especially
I have
with
the upper hand.
the manipulative where he does this to his head, where he goes
Yeah,
around and is like, yes, like you're finally getting it, all my pieces are sliding into place.
That's Lex.
He's
That's
so
classic
confident
Lex.
in his plan that Superman won't.
I mean, so
do
this is
anything
what you're
to
gonna
him.
do. You're gonna fight, and it's like a cool win-win way of, it's either you fight and you kill the Batman and the whole world sees you as even more of a menace as they think you are now, or you die.
Yeah, that line, that's the scene of dialogue that they have there where Lex says, a god cannot be all-powerful and all good. Just like you cannot be all-powerful or all good. So it's like, we're going to find out, are you weak or are you evil? Like, what part is not perfect?
And then what I think, I just realized this, I think Zack Snyder is taking his liberties with the comics in certain aspects to show the evolution of a character's.
Yeah.
That's what I totally thought.
Because he did that in Man of Steel. That's why he killed Zod.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because he was like, he said, I believe Superman has to cross that line to know that's the line.
Yeah.
And
Batman,
Batman doesn't explicitly kill anyone, but he does implicitly kill some people in this, which
took you off.
I would have preferred he didn't do that.
Well,
but
it
honestly
worked really well.
Yeah,
like, I never had like this huge.
I'm okay with the
messed up problem.
Yeah,
I'm okay with the
Which is
ones
not
where he's
hard.
flying the Batwing and he's shooting at cars with have machine guns on it. I'm like, alright, so in real life if a car explodes, people die.
Yeah.
Okay, but then like there's the grenade and I'm like, okay, the guy pulled a pin on the grenade, threw it at Batman, Batman batted it away. Okay.
right.
But that one with the flamethrower, and he's literally just holding the guy's gun with like this, and he shoots the flamethrower, and
He shoots the tank and explodes everything.
like that one, I was kind of like,
It still worked. I
it
thought.
worked
Yeah.
because I mean, technically, he didn't shoot him.
I like
I'm like,
Ayana's take on this. Again, I would have preferred if he didn't do that one. I didn't have necessarily any other problems with the deaths, but that one was the one that really bothered me the most because he could have taken that guy out without
He
killing
could have
him.
shot his arm.
Right. But I think Ayana's take on this is pretty good, where it says that shows Jason Todd, and in the comics, when he loses Jason Todd, he becomes very reckless
I
with
wouldn't say
himself.
that's
I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that it is, but he becomes reckless with himself. He becomes reckless with his own life and the lives of the other people. He's hurting people more, and that's why Tim Drake comes in and he's like, you need a Robin. Because if you don't have one, you don't have the white to balance out your blackness. You don't have the goodness to balance out your dark.
I wouldn't say that's his motive of why he's so reckless in the movie, mainly because we never even hear the word Robin even named.
Sure.
So that's
The
way
suit
too
is
big
there.
of a jump. Way too big of a jump. Way too big of a jump.
But I like
What
that
it is-
interpretation.
What it is, and because it totally is this, because Alfred and Batman have this talk, is it's Superman.
Yes.
Superman shows up, and it makes Batman scared, it makes him desperate, it makes him
It turns
worried.
good men cruel.
It turns good men cruel.
Right.
And especially because we've seen the newspaper about Bat Brand of Justice, and we've seen that he's only done this with 2 people so far, with those pictures that Clark was looking through. And it showed, or was it Lois, someone, it showed the one on the chest and showed someone else on the face. It's just it showed that he's starting to do this now because he realizes if he needs to beat someone like Superman, he needs to be a lot crueler, and he's going to have to make exceptions to his rule. And then you talk about at the funeral, he says, I didn't honor him in life, I'm going to honor him in death. And he started with that, fighting with his confrontation with Lex, not branding him, he's turning it around, and we're seeing him go back to what he used to be 20 years ago.
And I think it
worked perfectly.
I know we've talked about for a while now what we didn't like about the movie, but all in all, I really liked this movie. It was a fantastic movie.
Yeah, well, the pacing is still awkward. You can kind of get over it pretty fast.
The pacing is still awkward. I think the director's extended edition will fix most of the problems that we have.
I think this is we talked about this a lot, where the Marvel Cinematic Universe has set up what the formula for a comic book movie looks like. Just in the same way that Disney does with animated shows. They kind of have, and because Disney owns Marvel, the point is even more solid, where they kind of monopolize a category and then they say, this is the only thing that counts, and anything outside of that will not make money. And I understand why they have to make money, obviously, but because that's the impression of what a comic book movie is, it's so heavily driven by the Marvel Cinematic Universe. When you walk into Batman vs. Superman, it's not that.
Yeah,
it takes a lot of things and it puts them on their head. You don't have, because the scene, the whole Marvel universe. Pick any Marvel movie basically, and you can plot it out as hero is there, the villain shows up, does some damage somewhere. Maybe the hero intervenes. Maybe he just sees it happen. The next time they fight, the hero loses technically, or he has to be pulled out. And then he is reinvigorated with strength or inspiration from his friend or his leader, or he finds some clue or some key. The last piece falls into place. He beats him again. That's the same thing. In the Avengers,
and especially because
the power of friendship.
Especially because in the movies, it's very like, this is the hero, this is the villain. His intentions are clearly evil, and his are clearly good.
Especially with the Marvel universe, where almost every villain they have, except for like Winter Soldier, is the humans are a cancer on this world. I must dispose of them. They're not worthy.
That's why the Winter Soldier, I think, is probably the best Marvel movie. It's just because it's so fresh. Like it was just this isn't.
And that was also quite different too.
Yeah,
because it was like a heist movie.
Yeah, it was fun, but it was.
And that's why I'm excited.
But the villain was still like super.
And this is why in my vlog that I put out on NerdNest, I said that my most anticipated movie between Civil War and Doctor Strange, I put Doctor Strange above Civil War, simply because I feel like it's going to be different. I feel like Civil War is going to be Avengers 3, and I don't want 5 Avengers movies with the 2 Infinity Wars one. It's just. It starts to wear on you, and it's not even that the characters are the same, because I love characters and I love plot-driven movies. That's why I like X-Men so much. But you have to have the characters grow and change.
And the only reason I'm really like, let's do Civil War is because we've already seen heroes fight in these movies.
Right.
This isn't change base. We saw Iron Man and Thor. We saw it's happened. Yeah. And it's not like, oh no.
Hell, we've already seen those Iron Man and Captain America fight already.
Yeah.
To me, it's Spider-Man, Black Panther are the 2 big reasons I want to see this. Because Black Panther, pretty cool. Spider-Man is Spider-Man. That's kind of he speaks for himself.
I do genuinely really like Bucky Barnes and his character and his relationship with Steve Rogers. That is probably the most well-developed relationship in the MCU.
But what the MCU does is they have a very even balance between action, dramatic, and a comedy scene.
Yeah.
It's almost like
comedy's almost the whole thing now.
Yeah. Well, no, it's almost like if you have an action scene, you have to have a serious moment in that action scene,
and then it needs to be broken.
And then you have to have a comedy moment in that action scene.
So it's not too serious.
And then it's like if you have a talking scene, you have to have a dramatic moment, you have to have a comedy moment, and then you have to have someone getting frustrated and angry and getting up in someone else's face real quick.
Yeah.
Just enough.
There's a formula. There's a formula to all of their movies, and it gets boring and predictable. And another problem I have with the MCU that DC does very, very well is not the way that they handle their female characters, but I'm specifically talking about how they handle their love interests. Pepper Potts and like Tony Stark, once they got together, and this goes for basically any of them, once they get together, you really never see them. Except in passing, it's like, don't worry, your relationship is safe, we're protecting her. Or there's always phone calls like, are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Just to remind you that, oh yeah, they're still in love. Deadpool didn't do that. That's why we like Deadpool, because the love interest wasn't 2D. You got the relationship. Batman vs. Superman doesn't do that. Lois and Clark are not falling in love. They're not dancing around each other trying to figure out what they are. They live together, it's assumed. They're in a solid committed relationship, and they have a lot of love for each other in a way that you, even if the scenes are a little bit drawn out at times, you genuinely feel it.
Oh, those scenes are probably closer to how actual relationship is.
Right. And also the other part that I like is I'm not suggesting that Marvel needs to put all of their love interests in the film and make them do something so they're always useful. But that being said, Lois Lane certainly does things in this movie.
Oh yeah.
She's an active part of the film.
That's kind of her in the comics.
And she's a participant where she is not directly, her only role is to be there when Superman needs a shoulder to cry. Which she kind of was at times in Man of Steel, and they made it better.
That's also part of her job.
Right.
Well, just one of the biggest things to take away from this movie, and one of my friends who isn't a comic fan at all took away from it, is he just said, this kind of makes you question what a superhero movie should be.
Mm-hmm.
And it shouldn't be anything like dry and cut. It should be this, it should be that. It just kind of shows how versatile this genre can be.
Right.
And it's something that I'm happy. DC definitely said with this movie, we're not Marvel. This is what we are doing.
Because that was kind of half my fear, was that they would basically just take Winter Soldier, which is one of the better Marvel movies, and then just, alright, replace Captain America with
Superman.
Superman and Batman, doesn't matter, and then replace, or better yet, Captain America with Superman and Winter Soldier with Batman, and we'll show more Winter Soldier side. I mean Batman side, and then just like,
it's the same formula.
Movie. It's like it probably would have gotten a higher score on Rotten Tomatoes.
But if you look at it, the audience score is actually very high. What
would have ended up happening is any DC fan, true DC fan, who's been struggling the last couple of years in the Marvel Universe with, oh my god, Marvel's my favorite, I love Marvel, I read all the comics, I watched as a kid, I've known the Avengers since I was 2, would have been like, this is a good movie. And the DC fans would have been,
this is not what we
This
want.
is not Batman, it's not bad, but it's not Batman.
Yeah.
One really quick complaint about this movie, about Batman vs. Superman, I didn't like the way they marketed it. Not just the commercial, but the fact that it says Batman v Superman, and the real Batman vs. Superman fight is like 10 minutes.
It's very short.
Which wouldn't be a problem if they didn't like highlight this big, huge
if
part
they had called it, if they had just said Dawn of Justice, and showed like all three of them in there, been like there is a fight between Batman and Superman, explain the tensions rising, but they needed to market it more as a drama movie and not a superhero action movie.
Yeah.
So
people were. I think some of the reason people don't like it is because they're walking in with this mindset.
I thought that there'd be like a 30-minute block of just Batman and Superman beating the shit.
Yeah, so don't go in expecting that, because that's not what it is. But that doesn't mean it isn't really good.
Yeah.
And I think
the final act of, I wish Doomsday looked a bit more like Doomsday. That being said,
I have a theory that he's gonna come back.
Probably.
Maybe.
I'd be surprised if they get rid of that villain.
That doesn't like excuse the fact that I don't like how he looked.
You're right.
Like I said though, like as he comes back, he would evolve more, and he could.
I know that, Josh.
He could potentially become more spiked out.
I know that, but I'm saying in this movie he could still be more spiked out. That being said, the final act with the Trinity, one of the coolest like shots of all three of them. And Wonder Woman's music is unreal.
Hans Zimmer and DJ XL, who did the music for Mad Max, match made in heaven. Very strange, but awesome.
Lex
sound.
Luthor's music is also good. The dum dum.
And we had all the cameos of the superheroes, which we'll have to see more of in the next movie.
Aquaman looks so cool.
People say they shoehorned that in. I really get annoyed with that because it's literally 5 minutes, and it kind of is like it's almost like a little teaser in a movie to be like, get ready to further explore these characters in a future movie.
Because it makes sense.
Right.
It makes sense that Lex Luthor, who is obsessed with Superman and this hero, would be looking at
to potentially
other metahumans that would either A, also be a threat, or B, help in his quest to destroy Superman.
Yeah. Alright, so I guess we'll end this by saying, does this movie break your top 5 superhero movies?
For me, it does. Yeah, I would say
it tops out at 5.
I would say it breaks my top 5. I'm not sure where I would put it. I put usually First Class, Days of Future Past, Dark Knight, and Deadpool. Maybe Winter Soldier / Guardians of the Galaxy, but Batman vs Superman for me.
I would probably go Dark Knight, Deadpool, maybe Civil War.
Maybe Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Winter Soldier.
They're all the same.
Maybe 4. I get 4.
For me, it's Deadpool, Dark Knight, and they those two swap. Probably Winter Soldier and Batman vs Superman. You could totally switch those two. I think it kind of works the same way as Deadpool, Dark Knight. And then 5 is confidently Guardians of the Galaxy. Because Guardians of the Galaxy has like the common problem with Marvel movies of just no good plot.
It definitely
no good villain really.
It definitely kicked out Avengers for me out of my top 5. No contest that like this better because
Avengers been out of my top 5 for a really long time.
Yeah, you kind of once you look at it, you realize that the pacing is off.
I think Ant-Man,
and it's still like basic plot low key. So
I enjoyed Ant-Man more than I enjoyed Avengers.
Any last minute comments before we go?
Don't listen to the critics. It's a really good movie.
Go see it. Go see it at least twice.
Go see it, but definitely if you're gonna go see it with with your friends, make sure they know that you're going to see a drama movie with superheroes in it, not a superhero movie that's kind of dramatic, because there's a big difference.
And the cinematography is amazing.
It's a very well shot movie, and it's very pretty, and it sounds amazing. You just have fun and don't expect what you have been told.
This isn't
to
a movie
expect.
like the classic Marvel movie
right.
or just superhero movies before. We started the cinematic universe of just sit there and you know what's going on. You really need to pay attention and you need to think about what's going on.
Yeah, it's engaging.
There's a lot of metaphors and a lot of things that they're trying to make you feel without you even knowing you're feeling it, and it's kind of brilliant how they do it, and I appreciate it more and more the more you think about it. So
well, enjoy the movie, guys. We're going to in the future for sure, but for now we're gonna get coffee, so we need to do that because it's like 11 on a Sunday.
I'm getting caffeine withdrawals.
So we're going to head out. Thanks for watching the NerdNest podcast. All of our social media will be in the link in the description below. You can follow us on Tumblr or Twitter, Facebook. We also have Instagram. We don't use that much, but definitely go to our Tumblr, Twitter, and Facebook, and we will see you next time. Bye, guys.
Yep.